And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking who goes where, specifically Esteban Ocon, Carlos Sainz and Valtteri Bottas. And two of those drivers, their futures may very much be intertwined, their destiny depending on another. And no, I'm not talking about Esteban Ocon. We'll get to Esteban Ocon in a bit. But when we look at the main headlines for today's exciting episode, we've got Carlos apparently having a plan. That is to go to Williams and then spend a year at Williams, hoping that Red Bull need him for next year, especially so if they're going to sign Sergio Perez, and then go to Red Bull. Esteban Ocon, I don't think he has a plan, but he did have something quite interesting to say, which we'll get into. Last but not least, Valtteri Bottas. Yes, is he going to be at Williams? Is his future at Williams? A lot of that may well depend on Carlos Sainz and what happens there. So let's talk about Carlos Sainz. As you know, he is currently unemployed, despite being one of the best drivers currently of the year. He won in Australia. Yes, Max Verstappen had an issue, but still, nevertheless, he did win in Australia. And at the beginning of the year, he really outperformed Charles Leclerc to the point where people were thinking and people were suggesting, has Ferrari made a mistake by getting rid of Carlos Sainz? And that's something only now, I think, with his Monaco Grand Prix win and a couple of races before, that Charles Leclerc put that right, maybe. In a way, having said that, we've still got a lot of the seasons to go. So, Carlos Sainz, it's been suggested here on planetf1.com that he could use that Williams seat as a springboard to his great objective, which is a Red Bull return for the 2026 season. And that's what's been claimed, with the outgoing Ferrari star close to making a decision on his future. And it seems that Mercedes don't really want him at the moment because it looks like they're going to sign Kimi Antonelli. The rumour was that they had offered Carlos Sainz a one-year deal with Mercedes, but Carlos, kind of like Lewis, wanted a more substantial guaranteed, like Lewis had that one plus 1 year. It was rumoured that Carlos Sainz may have been signed that, but he wanted a bit more. He didn't want to just keep the seat warm for Kimi Antonelli. And speaking of Kimi Antonelli, it would appear that he is the one that will be the second Mercedes driver. There have been quite a few tests that he's been up in the older cars, and Mercedes are said to be really happy with him. So as opposed to going to the Williams team next year, it would appear he's probably the favourite to get that Mercedes seat, unless Toto Wolff, and it's getting cringy at this point, can persuade Max Verstappen to go to Mercedes next year, even though Mercedes look like they've been the furthest away since their comeback of winning a race, which is, sad but true. Monaco aside, they didn't have a clue at Monaco. Yes, they were quite close. China, Lewis was quite close, but once again, he was absolutely ruined by the Verstappen Red Bull combination. So, talking about Sainz, it appears he's got two options. Option number one is go to Audi. Option number two is go to Williams. Now, the Audi deal would appear to be a more than just a 1+1, a multiple year deal. But he doesn't really want to. And I imagine the reason why is when you get a new team, let's be fair, Sauber, whatever you want to call them, they're not the best team at the moment. You can make an argument saying they're one of the slowest teams at the moment. And yeah, I mean, yes, they have the potential for scoring points, but when you've got a driver as good as Bottas, yes, you can make an argument. He's not in his prime. However, he has still been in a position just about to score a few points. But a few points, we're talking about the odd 1 or 2 points, the odd 10th or 9th could have potentially come his way. And I don't think that's going to change next year or the year after. I don't think Carlos wants that. So the suggestion is that him signing that 1 year deal at Williams with a view that Red Bull are somewhat bizarrely, according to quite a few people, going to sign Sergio Perez to another 1 year deal next year, which, as we've spoken about in our previous, one of our previous videos, where we talk about Red Bull's current slump, if they lose the Constructors' Championship, it's going to be on Perez's side of the garage that I think a lot of the blame will look to. I hope I'm wrong. Every let's be fair, every race is a chance to change. It wasn't Perez's fault at Monaco, but it was his fault. He qualified 18th, for example, and then the minute you qualify near the back of the grid, where you especially a front runner being out of position, things happen that could be out of your control, or the chances are higher. So, and that's where I think Carlos Sainz will sign potentially for Williams with a 1-year deal, with a view of maybe with an option for a few other years to see where it's going. And I think James Vowles is a fantastic salesman. And imagine a Williams. I mean, imagine the turnaround where you now have a Williams with two, potentially, with one race-winning driver. And Alex Albon, let's be fair, a podium finisher and a driver that may well have won a Red Bull race had the universe been a tiny bit kinder to him, for example. So Carlos Sainz, that a lot of people are suggesting is going to be his plan for next year. But from one plan to quite the other plan, Esteban Ocon. Now, he received a lot of criticism in Monaco. I mean, it would appear when you look at Drive to Survive, yes, it's absolutely embellished, but let's not beat about the proverbial bush. It's quite clear that these two drivers are not going to get on. And then at Monaco, he put himself out of the race and nearly put his teammate out of the race. And he's received a lot of backlash online. Some people have not been very nice. And he's come out essentially saying, we are not robots. Ocon confirms, that's what I think he's put out there on social media, but he confirms that he will race in Canada and hits out at this abuse following the Monaco crash. So he's confirmed that he's going to be racing in Canada, but perhaps somewhat sadly, he said himself, he's been deeply saddened about the amount of abuse and negativity he received since his coming together with Pierre Gasly in Monaco. He's been handed a 5-place grid penalty for next weekend's Grand Prix in Montreal, and that was after that one lap with Gasly. Now, speaking to the French broadcaster, the Famine, his boss said, "It's sad, this kind of incident. It's exactly what we didn't need to see, and there will be appropriate consequences." I guess when you're saying that to the kids, and then you don't have these appropriate consequences, he didn't, to be fair, suggest that there would be a race ban. I don't think he said those exact words. But following the incident, there was speculation that Ocon could be benched for the Canadian Grand Prix. But in a lengthy post on social media, he's confirmed that he's going to be racing in Canada while opening up on the challenges of being a competitor on the grid. He said himself, "Much has been said in the aftermath of the Monaco Grand Prix. While I've received many messages of support, I've been deeply saddened by the amount of abuse and negativity that I've received online regarding my character, my driving and my career. Thanks to the hard work and support and sacrifices of many people, I've raced in over 140 Grand Prix so far since my debut in 2016. I've always been a tough competitor, and like most drivers, I've had my share of incidents." And he went on to saying, "I've been lucky to race alongside talented and experienced teammates, including race winners Daniel Ricciardo, Checo Perez and Pierre Gasly, and a double world champion Fernando Alonso. As teammates, we would often start races very close to each other, which in some cases meant tough battles on the track and sometimes contact." He goes on, "Of course, I've made honest mistakes. We are not robots. We are athletes pushing ourselves to the limit every day to achieve our dreams of winning races. F1 is a sport where emotions run high and passions run deep. I see and feel this weekend at the track and on social media, the good and the bad, but the misinformed statements and gross distortions that I have seen online in recent days about my ability to work with the team have been inaccurate, hurtful and damaging." So he has apologised on social media for that lap 1 incident, and he also added that he had full respect for his teammate, which we know that might not be the case, but fair enough. You would, as an employee at Alpine, you would say that. I support my teammate, I respect my teammate, etc. And he continues saying, "Since my first laps in motorsport, I've approached the sport with humility, professionalism and respect. These values are instilled in me from a very young age." And he said, "I took responsibility for the incident on lap 1 on Sunday, despite my DNF. I'm glad the team added a point to the tally in what has been a difficult start for us all of us. I respect Pierre as a teammate and as a competitor. We've always worked collaboratively, professionally inside the team, and this will continue to be the case." Very PR-friendly lines there. I think the issue that Alpine currently have is he is their best driver. He's outshone Pierre Gasly just as much as Pierre Gasly outshone Esteban Ocon last year. And I think therein lies the difficulty of what are you going to do with young Esteban Ocon. I don't think benching him And I think I mentioned that in my post, the post-Monaco fallout, that yes, it's been threatened, but I really don't think that's going to happen at all. And obviously Ocon has confirmed that is not the case, and he will be in Canada with that 5-place grid penalty. But where is Ocon going to go for the future? And many have suggested that now he, as the Alpine as a almost like a religious reference, washed their hands of Ocon for next year, thinking they're going to keep Pierre Gasly and maybe have someone like a Mick Schumacher potentially in the car, or a certain Japanese RB driver as well, who may or may not have a home. So where for Ocon, Williams could be a place. Haas could be a place for him as well. I mean, let's be honest. I'd imagine he'd fare quite well against someone like Hulkenberg. So with that, I'm guessing he'd probably be maybe a bit better than someone like Magnussen. But having both K-Mag and Ocon in the Haas team, I don't think would work particularly well. Which means I think Magnussen's seat is equally at threat as much as Ocon's, because you've got Ollie Behrman, new Wonder Star, waiting in the wings, and Haas are not going to want 2 rookies again, are they? They pretty much come out and said that. So I think maybe Williams, maybe Haas, very unlikely though to be Renault, maybe even Audi. That would be a turn for the book, wouldn't it? Nothing, I think, is impossible in this year in F1 when we've had Adrian Newey leave Red Bull and Lewis Hamilton sign for Ferrari, and rumours of Max Verstappen leaving Red Bull too. Absolute craziness. So let's talk about the final thing about Bottas potentially going to Williams. Now, Valtteri Bottas has said things should be on the move soon, and he jokes about having a coffee at the Williams motorhome, in the Williams motorhome, but that happened at Imola, about 3 weeks ago now. Now, while there have been some movements at the Stake F1 team, Bottas ahead of the Imola weekend, people were one of the big stories was Bottas is going to sign with Williams. But what caused the stir was his visit to the Williams motorhome. Now, Alexander Albon, as we know, he's already set at Williams. And Nico Hulkenberg is set at Sauber and Audi. Bottas, as we know, he has got options, but not as many. And there are some links to Haas, and I think Bottas would do quite well at Haas. But in the public eyes, the visit to the Groves team means maybe he's going to sign for them. Particularly, I think, if Carlos Sainz says no to Williams, expect Bottas, who has been at Williams before, to do well and go there. But after qualifying, Bottas did play down those expectations, joking about he was just having coffee with his friend James Vowles. He said there are always rumours in the sport, so nothing to report at the moment. Normally when someone says no comment, it means it's true. It's the classic thing, especially when it's like a PR press release from a team. But anyway, I digress. So Bottas continued, and he said, ideally, I think next week we'll start to move. That's the target. I have good options, he said. As for the morning coffee, I don't know. I like coffee. I don't know. We'll see. I think that's obviously a nod to Williams. But yeah, I'll still go for 99. I would like to be sorted soon, which is kind of the same thing for all teams, I guess, because things are really moving. So hopefully, within the next few weeks, I'm comfortable and confident on things. No panic. We're not just talking to one team. Let's put it that way. And I think the only confidence that a lot of people have with Bottas is that the Sauber team don't want him. I don't really know why. He's done okay against Schalke, particularly last year, but I don't think they have that much confidence in him. And if you remember, he was a signing before the former McLaren boss Andreas Seidel came to Sauber. So it would almost be at this point more surprising to me if Bottas was signed by Sauber than with another team. But I think he would make a really, really good addition to the Haas team. I would, run him and Ollie Behrman, I think, would be absolutely brilliant. Because unlike Esteban Ocon, he may not be as far, but I don't think he would cause trouble. And I think Ollie Behrman is a potential superstar like Kimi Antonelli. I say potential because you don't really know, do you? Anyway, if you made it this far and you want to see more, give us a subscribe. Look at some of our back catalogues. If you like Formula One games, especially old F1 games, we've got a couple of playlists for you. F1 90, F1 97, with Martin Brundle, and then a what if scenario with Ayrton Senna we did in our playlists. and also I think the first one I did, F1 97 with David Coulthard as well. Both, all three of them going for the title. Have a look there. There's so many episodes. There's a lot of content there if you want to watch it. Stay tuned though, because we'll be leading soon into the Canadian Grand Prix, and we'll be doing our preview and getting ready for what is sometimes one of the most exciting races of the season. We'll speak to you soon. Thank you very much.